Troops from the United States and Morocco train in the vast annual African Lion military exercise.
The joint exercises come amid heightened tensions between Morocco and Algeria over the disputed Western Sahara region. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I'm CJ Hero.
And I'm Nina Richie Alagaw Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines.
Another price hike on diesel and kerosene looms next week. Philippines abandons its joint oil and gas exploration talks with China. U.S. Supreme Court says Americans have the right to carry guns in public. After 2 years of coronavirus curbs, migrant workers in Singapore no longer need special permission to leave their dorms. And popular streaming giant Netflix laying off 300 employees amid a rough year.
With just a few days before the inauguration of President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr., June 30 has been declared a special non-working holiday in Manila. Vin Pascua has the details.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno has declared that June 30 will be a special non-working holiday in the capital city. This is to give way to the inauguration of President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at the National Museum. Moreno made the declaration on June 22nd through Executive Order No. 53. He said it is but fitting and proper that all citizens of the country in general and residents of the city of Manila in particular be given full opportunity to witness and welcome this significant event in the life of the nation. The Manila Police District as well as other law enforcement agencies have been instructed to strictly implement security measures during the inauguration. The city government will also close various thoroughfares within the perimeter of the venue to manage the flow of traffic. Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Commission on Elections reminds everyone that voter registration for this year's Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections will be from July 4 to 23 only. The Comelec explains that under RA 8198, voter registration is prohibited within 120 days before the elections. This means that it is already prohibited roughly starting August 7, given that the barangay and SK polls are scheduled for December 5 of this year. Nonetheless, the approved registration online or deadline, July 23, is even shorter than the earlier proposal to hold it until July 30. The poll body explains that aside from voter registration activities, many other post-registration activities and requirements need to be given enough time. Acting Comelec spokesperson John Rex Laudianco says they only have July 24 to August 6 to publish the names of voter registration applicants, set and conduct election registration board hearings, and subject registrants to database verification, among other tasks. Motorists should brace for a looming oil price increase next week. According to the Department of Energy, the adjustment will impact diesel and kerosene prices. Take a look. DOE said that factoring in the weakening of the local currency, diesel may increase by around 1 peso per liter and kerosene can rise by not more than 50 centavos per liter. Gas, however, may experience a small rollback of around 1 peso per liter. A weak currency could make a big impact on the price of oil imports as the Philippines is mostly reliant on the world market for its oil supply. Prices of gas, diesel, and kerosene have been constantly increasing since the start of this year due to the world market uncertainties, including the conflict between large oil producer Russia and Ukraine.
The incoming administration of presidential aspirant or President-elect Bongbong Marcos Jr. is pushing for a 5-year term for Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan or SK officials. Eden Santos has the details.
The Marcos administration is studying a proposal to extend the service of barangay officials to 5 years per term instead of the current 3 years. Attorney Vic Rodriguez, Executive Secretary-designate, said they are also deciding whether the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections should push through on December 5. Rodriguez said they are studying thoroughly the plus and the minuses of spending or calling for elections, but he made it clear that they have no final decision yet. Rodriguez said the Marcos administration is open to all options being presented to them, including the possibility of passing a law and making the term of barangay captains to 5 years. He added that as a former barangay captain, it would be better to make it a 5-year term instead of extending the term due to the postponement of elections, which is against the 1992 Local Government Code. In 2019, President Rodrigo Duterte signed the Republic Act 11462, which postponed the May 2020 barangay and SK polls to December 2022. Meanwhile, the last barangay and SK elections held in May 2018 were postponed twice. Eden Santos for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Benjamin Diokno eased worries about the weakness of the peso against the US dollar. Diokno says just because the dollar is strong, it doesn't mean the Philippine economy is weak. When comparing economies in Asia, Diokno says the Philippines is still in the middle. He added that the depreciation of the peso might positively affect the cash remittances of overseas Filipino workers. The peso closed at near 55 per dollar today. In particular, the local currency capped the week at 54.985 pesos against the greenback, posting its weakest performance in nearly 17 years.
President Rodrigo Duterte has mobilized whole-of-government support for financial resistance for all Filipinos through the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion. Vic Sumintak reports.
Malacanang orders all departments and agencies of the government to support the implementation of the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion or NSFI 2022-2028. NSFI aims to give everyone, especially the vulnerable sectors, access to a wide range of financial products and services, including savings, payments, financing, investing, or insurance. But its goal is not merely to provide universal access to financial services. It seeks to ensure that the people meet their financial obligations, absorb and recover from financial shocks, reach long-term goals, and develop a sense of control of their finances. Under Memorandum Circular Number 97, all departments, agencies, and instrumentalities of the government, including state universities and colleges, government-owned and controlled corporations, and foreign-based agencies are directed to support the implementation of the NSFI in line with their respective functions and mandates. Vic Sumintak reporting for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Foreign Affairs Chief Teodoro Locsin Jr. has confirmed that the Philippines abandoned its joint oil and gas exploration talks with China. Mayan Corvera reports.
Joint oil and gas exploration discussions between the Philippines and China in the West Philippine Sea have been terminated completely. According to Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr., the decision was made upon the instruction of President Rodrigo Duterte. In 2018, the Philippines and China signed a memorandum of understanding creating the framework for future negotiations on joint oil and gas explorations in the West Philippine Sea. Locsin said the Philippine side initiated the termination of the oil exploration talks, adding that nothing is pending, everything is over. However, Locsin clarified that the termination of the talks does not mean the Philippines is giving up on its claim over the disputed island in the West Philippine Sea. Locsin said the Philippines will continue to abide by the 2016 arbitral ruling that invalidated Beijing's expansive claims in the South China Sea, including parts of the West Philippine Sea. Locsin said that it is now at the next administration's helm to protect the Philippine sovereignty in the West Philippine Sea. Mayan Corvera reporting for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
When we return, EU awards Ukraine and Moldova candidate status. In a major victory for Second Amendment advocates, U.S. Supreme Court allows the carrying of firearms in public. And Buenos Aires fire leaves 5 dead and 30 hospitalized. These and more stories from around the world when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Sa bawat sumbong may respondeng katapat. Hindi nagdadalawang isip na tumulong sino man ang nangangailangan. Isang lalaking PWD na walang awang ginulpi sa Tondo, Maynila, naakunan ng CCTV. Responde, agad nagpaabot ng tulong sa biktima.
Isang grupo na nagbibigay ng pag-asa sa mga bata sa bayan ng Binangonan, ating kilalanin.
Batang nagdurusa sa sakit na leukemia, dumulog ng tulong sa Responde. At grupong tumutulong sa mga batang lansangan at sa iba pang taong nangangailangan, ating saluduhan. Mapapanood nyo kami sa mga sumusunod na mga channels. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. European Union leaders have granted candidate status to Ukraine and Moldova. It is the first step for the two countries to become part of the EU. The move sends a strong signal to Russia that the EU backs the pro-Western aspirations of Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky calls the decision a historic moment. The country applied to become part of the EU just days after Moscow launched its special military operation.
An Ilyushin Il-76 military cargo plane crashed and caught fire while landing near Russia's western city of Ryazan, killing 4 of the 9 people on board. The plane was forced to make an emergency landing due to engine problems Friday morning, according to Russian Defense Ministry. Officials said those injured were hospitalized in grave condition. The 4-engine Il-76 was designed in the 1970s and has served as the main heavy-lift cargo plane for the Soviet and Russian air forces.
As Washington reportedly waffles on selling Gray Eagle combat drones to Ukraine, military officials in Kyiv are asking for fighter jets such as the F-15 and F-16 instead, saying they have a better chance against Russian air defenses. One pilot told Foreign Policy this week Ukraine is not Afghanistan and the expensive drones would just get shut down. RT News cited that retired U.S. officers have loudly advocated for the delivery of Gray Eagles to Ukraine, calling them a potential game changer in the conflict. But other news agencies said the White House has put on hold such plans to send 4 such drones due to fears they could fall into Russian hands. Meanwhile, Serhiy Haidai, the governor of the Luhansk region, said Ukrainian forces will retreat from the region after weeks of fierce fighting over Severodonetsk. Now, the strategically important industrial hub has been the scene of street battles as the outgunned Ukrainians put up a stubborn defense. Capturing Severodonetsk and its twin city, Lysychansk, would give the Russians control of Luhansk and allow them to push further into the wider Donbass.
Russian President Vladimir Putin took part in the 14th BRICS summit held via video conference and chaired by China. Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, Chinese President Xi Jinping, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa also attended the meeting. According to Putin, conflict settlement, criminal use of new technologies, climate change, and the spread of dangerous infections can only be addressed through joint efforts.
Have been working to step up our cooperation on regional and international matters. Every year we see that the BRICS is becoming increasingly important in international affairs. This is an objective reality because the 5 BRICS countries have immense political, economic, scientific, technical, and human potential. And it is true that we have every possibility to work together effectively for ensuring global security, stability, sustained growth and prosperity, and for improving the well-being.
The Russian president stressed that Moscow will keep promoting close and versatile interaction with all BRICS partners, as well as contribute to the group's greater role in international affairs.
Executives of major oil companies in the U.S. were summoned to the White House Thursday. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says President Joe Biden wanted them to meet the Energy Secretary to discuss runaway gasoline prices.
At President Biden's direction, Energy Secretary Granholm, who was in front of you all yesterday, met with the CEOs and executives of the 7 major U.S. oil companies this morning at the Department of Energy headquarters in Washington, D.C. The meeting was a productive dialogue focused on creating an opportunity for industry to work with government to help deliver needed relief to American consumers.
A landmark decision from the U.S. Supreme Court that gives more rights to gun owners. The country's top court has ruled that Americans have a fundamental right to carry firearms in public. The ruling strikes down a New York state law that required people to prove they had legitimate self-defense needs to receive a gun permit. It also prevents other states from restricting people from carrying guns. It's a blow to gun control advocates who have been calling for tougher laws to restrict firearms in the wake of 2 mass shootings last month. Columbia University law professor Jeffrey Fagan says the ruling raises more questions than it answers.
Well, it's creating a precedent that there are extremely limited circumstances where one cannot carry a firearm. So it raises some questions about how that's interpreted. Can one carry a firearm into a church? Can one carry a firearm onto mass transit? Can one carry a firearm into a movie theater?
One dead and several individuals injured after 3 consecutive same-day shooting incidents occurred in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Here's Yolanda Pires with the details.
7 victims of gun violence in Toronto are recovering from their injuries after 4 separate shooting incidents took place on Father's Day, all within the span of 8 hours. 2 boys, 15 and 16 years old, were victims of the first incident. Only 2 hours later, a 3rd victim resulted from a second incident. All 3 people are in critical condition. In the 3rd incident, the man was pronounced dead on scene. 4 other victims were injured later that day after an unsanctioned car meet in Scarborough. It is said that all surviving victims will recover. The incidents bring attention to Toronto's ongoing issue with gun violence. The Toronto Police Service shows that the total number of shootings so far in 2022 is 192, whereas the average in recent years is 185. This year's total also exceeds last year's of 164, although 2022 is only halfway done. Police say no suspects have been arrested yet from the Father's Day shootings. Yolanda Pires, Mata ng Agila International, Toronto, Ontario. Trusted, connected, on point.
Tent villages are popping up in a region of Afghanistan that was shaken by a deadly earthquake. The shaker left more than 1,000 people dead and thousands of others homeless. Those who have made it out alive are now resorting to living in tents after their homes were reduced to rubble. To deal with the dead, mass graves are being dug. Footage released by the Taliban shows people in one village digging a long trench to lay the victims to rest. Although several countries have offered aid, it is difficult to get it to those who need it. Afghanistan has only a handful of airworthy planes and helicopters that can reach the disaster zone.
An apartment fire in the Argentinian capital of Buenos Aires has left 5 people dead. 3 of the dead are children. The other 2 victims are women. They died of smoke inhalation and burns on their way to the hospital. Another 35 people were taken to the hospitals in the city, with some suffering serious injuries. Authorities say the blaze broke out on the 7th floor and quickly spread to the 8th floor of the 14-story building early Thursday morning. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Next up, Austria scraps compulsory COVID vaccination despite rising infections. Health agency bans Juul e-cigarettes from the U.S. market. And U.S. and Morocco launch vast military exercise. These and more compelling stories from around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Baba ko ba nito? Ako yan lang, picture niya na.
Kanina pa ako nagigigil dito.
Tawa ka ha?
3!
Pakuha lang po, Nay. Ito? Huli ka nga rin eh!
Achoo! Naku, sir, sorry po. Kasi po
Nag-matching po ako. Hindi ko po sinasadya. Pasensya na po. Opo, sir. Magugupit po ako.
Napahanap si sir, oh.
Kaya nga po.
Sir, pasensya na po, ah.
So, bottoms up iced tea. Ito na, ang iced tea mo. Ang iced tea mo. Isang basong iced tea. Isang baso lang. Tama naman yung promise ko, di ba? Gusto ko yung tinungganan niya.
Oh no, it's Biro only. It's Biro. Sa Net 25. Biro only, bro.
You're still watching Mata ng Agila International. Health Minister Johannes Rauch said Austria is dropping compulsory COVID-19 vaccination for adults, saying it is unlikely that the measure would raise one of Western Europe's lowest vaccination rates. Rauch said in a news conference, surveys have shown that 13% of people who live in Austria will not get vaccinated despite the vaccine mandate. The vaccination rule is the only such sweeping mandate in the European Union that made vaccines compulsory for all adults, with few exceptions.
Wir haben uns dazu entschieden, die Impfpflicht abzuschaffen. Warum? Weil wir die Gräben zuschütten wollen, die in der Gesellschaft entstanden sind und das Miteinander in den Vordergrund stellen. Und wir
After 2 years of coronavirus curbs, migrant workers in Singapore no longer need special permission to leave their dorms starting today. Campaigners nonetheless criticized the country's decision to maintain some discriminatory restrictions.
We welcome the lifting of these restrictions which migrant workers have been under for about 2 years now. Although, of course, those restrictions that are still in place, it's still discriminatory in the sense that the rest of Singapore didn't even have Trace Together since, I think, about 2 months ago.
Around 300,000 migrant workers live in dorms in the prosperous city-state, where they are typically packed into shared rooms and sleep on bunk beds. The vast complexes were locked down during the first phase of the COVID pandemic, casting a rare spotlight on what rights activists said were the low-paid workers' poor living conditions. Nonetheless, Singapore remains one of the leading destinations for migrant workers, especially of Filipino or overseas Filipino workers or OFWs. In fact, even at the height of the pandemic in 2020, nearly 94,000 OFWs stayed and worked in Singapore, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority.
Seeking to lure back foreign visitors, Thailand has dropped rules requiring people to wear masks as COVID-19 cases fall. Face masks had been compulsory in public since mid-2021, when the country saw a wave of cases driven by the spread of the Delta variant. But the kingdom is keen to kickstart its stuttering economy by relaxing COVID-19 restrictions, including discarding most entry requirements from next month. The health ministry recommends people continue to wear face masks in crowded or poorly ventilated areas, but there was no explicit mention of public transport. The capital Bangkok's privately owned metro service later announced, however, that it would still require travelers using its trains to wear masks. The Thai government's move comes after Singapore and Cambodia also discarded rules requiring outdoor mask wearing. It also comes ahead of the end of the Thailand Pass system, which was or has required visitors to register and show proof of vaccination before entering the kingdom. From July 1, tourists will only have to carry their vaccine certificates or take a COVID-19 test on arrival.
A major blow to the e-cigarette giant Juul Labs. The Food and Drug Administration has denied the company's request to market its goods in the U.S. As of yesterday, the FDA has ordered Juul Labs to stop selling and distributing its products immediately. The announcement follows a 2-year review of data presented in connection with Juul's application to sell tobacco and menthol-flavored products in the United States. Juul has come under fire over its marketing of fruit and candy-flavored e-cigarettes. Critics accuse the company of targeting children. The company has argued that vaping products can provide a solution to the harmful health impacts of using conventional cigarettes.
Troops from the United States and Morocco launched the vast annual African Lion military exercise amid heightened tensions between the North African Kingdom and neighboring Algeria. The exercise, which began in the southern Moroccan region of Agadir, will last for the rest of the month. According to officials, this year's African Lion involved some 7,500 personnel from 10 nations such as Brazil, France, and the United Kingdom.
It's an exercise that we've been planning for the last year since the execution of African Lion 21 last year. Our overall goals is to increase the cooperation between the countries of Africa, specifically West Africa, and strengthen our goals with Morocco.
The training comprises land, sea, and air phases, a paratrooper landing, and weapons of mass destruction response exercise. It also includes observers from NATO and, for the first time, officials from Israel.
The Napa County District Attorney's Office filed DUI charges against Paul Pelosi stemming from his arrest at a crash scene last month. Paul is married to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. The latter was traveling on the East Coast when her husband ran into trouble with the law. According to a collision report from the California Highway Patrol, Pelosi had been attempting to cross a street when his Porsche was hit by a Jeep traveling northbound on the road. The criminal complaint stated the two vehicles sustained major collision damage. Pelosi completed sobriety tests at the time of the incident, showing signs of impairment. The criminal complaint also stated that CHP Highway Patrol determined Pelosi was the proximate cause of the collision. If convicted, Pelosi will face a punishment of up to 5 years of probation, a minimum of 5 days in jail, installation of an ignition interlock device fines, and DUI classes. Meanwhile, the House Speaker's office, through its spokesperson, declined to comment on the issue.
Jeff Bezos is targeting large government contracts awarded to Amazon's competitors in a strategy one legal expert called extraordinarily aggressive. Bezos companies have submitted bid protests on everything from military space launches to a key piece of hardware for NASA's Artemis program. An article in Bloomberg Law says that Bezos' moves seem to work. A Pentagon-wide cloud contract in NASA's lunar lander eventually yielded lucrative contracts for his companies. Bloomberg News editor Brad Stone said in an interview that Bezos isn't afraid to bring the full force of his relationship with the U.S. government to bear. Stone added that Amazon and Bezos have always operated from a sense of being an underdog and having to use every technique, every tool at their disposal to outmaneuver competitors. Bloomberg Law website said Amazon and Bezos didn't respond to requests for any comments on their article.
8 people have been found guilty of stealing an artwork by famous street artist Banksy. The artwork is a 2018 mural of a veiled, mournful woman spray painted by Banksy on the fire exit door of the Bataclan Theater. The theater is an attack site where 90 people were killed in 2015 by Islamist gunmen during a series of Paris attacks. In 2019, the thieves used a crowbar and angle grinder to remove the door in a matter of minutes. The crime provoked public outrage as the mural is a tribute to the terror victims. The Paris court carried out its verdict Thursday, sentencing the 8 men, which include 7 Frenchmen and 1 Italian, with jail time ranging from 6 months to 4 years.
National election campaigning in Papua New Guinea is in full swing. Correspondent Eco Hortaleza Quinola reports in Port Moresby.
Voters are getting ready to elect a new government in Papua New Guinea. Voting in the national election begins July 9th and continues until July 22nd. A record number of candidates are seeking public office. There are nearly 3,500 names on the official list of nominees. Of those, 142 are women. For the national parliament, 118 members will be elected.
And now we're into the campaign period. Now the nomination has ceased. And actually, in my district, which is the Sambai Moa district in Manila province, we have over 30 candidates, actually contenders for the Sambai Moa seat, and I am there to defend that seat. As I've stated earlier on, I will actually reposition and also consolidate my efforts. And the platform that I would stress on one is the human capital development, that's education. Currently, I have a policy where we support the disadvantaged families in the district. We pay 100% school fees, and we pay from the technical level up to university level.
The campaign has been marred by violence. There have been reports of vehicles, buildings, and other properties destroyed. Electoral Commissioner Simon Sinai has called on candidates to respect each other. There's no doubt the campaign is in full swing. Posters, motorcades, tarpaulins, and the like are displayed everywhere.
In Port Moresby, we have done exceptionally well. The development that we have taken place is unprecedented. It's never happened before, but for me as the incumbent, I am not taking that for granted, and I am not going to rest. For me, what we have achieved is done and dusted. It is history. I am prepared and going to push myself to look to the future, to do more for the economy and for our people and for the social sector, promoting gender equality, peace and security in our city. And I'm confident that we will do more this coming term of parliament.
Representatives from the Commonwealth Secretariat Observer Group will travel to Papua New Guinea to watch the elections to ensure that it is conducted with democratic standards. Eco Hortaleza Quinola, Matanang Agila International, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, trusted, connected, on point.
Coming right up, U.S. sportswear maker Nike to fully exit Russia. 5 planets take center stage as they align in the night sky. And Billie Eilish to hold Manila concert in August. Find out later when Matanang Agila International returns.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos every Sunday, 9 p.m.
Abangan sa Lutong Daza. May pa-birthday party para sa nag-iisang M-boy. Pinoy spaghetti, nachos, pandesal pizza, pati na din mango float. Sasakit ang tiyan nyo sa kakatawa.
Ang alin? Yung pagluluto ng islog sa umaga.
Kita-kits sa Lutong Daza sa Net 25.
Pilipinas at saan mang panig ng mundo, ihanda na ang shopping list nyo dahil narito na ang online shopping show kung saan ang hanap nyo, meron dito. Narito na ang Shopping All the Way with Jojo A. Eat na hit? We have it! May sayawan, tawanan, pati naiyakan. Pati pets nyo mag-i-enjoy dito. But wait, there's more. Dahil pati celebrity sellers, makikipag-online selling din. At hindi lang yan, dahil may chance kayong makabili ng collectible items mula sa inyong mga paboritong artista. Kaya what are you waiting for? Add to cart na! Shopping All the Way with Jojo A. Opening soon sa Net25.
You're still watching Mata ng Agila International. After predicting what to expect from this year's Atlantic hurricane season, climate experts in the United States are reminding disaster-prone communities that preparedness is key. Melissa Portes reports.
The beginning of June marked the start of the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season, which extends until November 30. According to forecasters at NOAA's Climate Prediction Center, this is the 7th consecutive year above-average hurricane activity is projected. It is predicted that there will be a 65% chance of an above-normal season. NOAA is also forecasting a range of 14 to 21 named storms, of which 6 to 10 could become hurricanes, including 3 to 6 major hurricanes, category 3, 4, or 5, with winds of 111 miles per hour or higher. NOAA Administrator Rick Spinrad reminds us that the impact of one storm can be felt for years.
These storms have taught us many lessons. One of the most important is that it's never too early to prepare for the devastating impacts of hurricanes. And while we're here today to preview an outlook of what trends will shape this year's hurricane season, it's crucial to remember that it only takes one storm to damage your home, neighborhood, and community. Preparedness is key.
The 2022 Atlantic Seasonal Outlook will be updated by NOAA's Climate Prediction Center in early August, ahead of the season's peak. Melissa Potes, Mata ng Agila International, Orlando, Florida. Trusted, connected, on point.
Cuba's National Zoo has welcomed its second baby white rhino to have been born in captivity in over 18 years. Born on June 9, baby rhino Ale now runs after his mother, Catherine. She takes him all over the meadow so he can adapt to the visitors, buses, and other zoo animals. The zoo worker in charge of the white rhino says the new calf is called Ale because his father's name is Alexander. Ale's parents were part of a donation of 10 rhinos from Namibia in 2013. With 8 white rhinos and 4 black rhinos, the National Zoo of Cuba in Havana has one of the largest exhibit groups of these mammals in Latin America. Its officials seek to contribute to the preservation of such species, which are threatened by poaching in Africa.
Once destined for the junkyard, old public transport buses in India's Kerala state are now being turned into activity rooms for children ages 3 to 5. Take a look. The initiative seeks to assist schools with a shortage of learning spaces. The Kerala State Road Transport Corporation has donated 2 old buses, which will be converted into air-conditioned rooms fitted with TV sets and speakers. Converting a bus takes around 4 days and costs under $4,000. According to the Kerala Minister of General Education and Labor, the Education on Wheels project is a new experiment that helps address the lack of school facilities.
Nike is the latest company to permanently pull out of the Russian market. The sportswear maker suspended operations shortly after the invasion of Ukraine. Now it says it will not reopen its stores, and its website and app will no longer be available in the country. Last month, Nike said it would not renew licensing agreements with Russian retailers. Nike joins other firms such as Adidas, IKEA, H&M, McDonald's, and Starbucks that have exited Russia. Russian authorities assure citizens that their favorite brands will have domestic alternatives.
Netflix is laying off 300 employees in the midst of a rough year for the popular streaming giant. The cuts amounted to about 4% of the streaming giant's workforce and mostly affected U.S. employees. Netflix said that while it continues to invest significantly in the business, it made such adjustments so that its costs are growing in line with its slower revenue growth. Netflix reported in February that it lost 200,000 subscribers globally for the first time in more than a decade. But the company has been coming up with the ways to turn the negative tide, including introducing a new lower-priced ad tier and clamping down on password sharing among subscribers.
Twitter won the latest round in its court battle to block a subpoena seeking to unmask an anonymous user. In tweets targeting the private equity billionaire Brian Cheth in October of 2020, the Twitter user posted copyrighted photos of women. U.S. District Judge Vince Chabria ruled that the subpoena petitioner, Bayside Advisory, could not make a viable copyright infringement claims for the 6 tweets posted by the account at Call Me Moneybags. In a statement to Bloomberg Law, Bayside's managing member, Bert Kaufman, said that the company is disappointed with the ruling and is evaluating options for a lawsuit against the anonymous user and an appeal. Bayside registered the copyrights of the 6 photos after asking Twitter to remove them in 2020. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act allows copyright holders to subpoena online services to obtain the identity of infringers. Judge Chabria said there were still major unanswered questions about the nature of Bayside's business, particularly the reason it wanted to unmask the Twitter user and its potential connections to Cheth. But both parties asked at a hearing last month that the case be adjudicated based on the current record. Though Bayside was able to make a viable copyright infringement claim, Chabria said the mystery behind the company meant he would still block the subpoena in a heartbeat.
A Tesla Model 3 is twisting through tight corners, accelerating rapidly, and doing emergency stops on a test track in Luxembourg. It is a standard stuff for the test since Tesla is sitting on 4 airless tires made by Goodyear, the U.S. manufacturer. The innovative airless tires are made from special plastic spokes supported by a thin reinforced rubber thread. Michael Rashita, Goodyear Senior Program Manager for Non-Pneumatic Tires, is frank about the limitations, saying that there will be noise and some vibration. Rashita said manufacturers hope to turn the airless tires into reality since the most obvious advantage is their being puncture-proof. Additionally, drivers will never need to check and adjust air pressure.
5 major planets in our solar system are lined up in a row for a rare planetary conjunction visible to the naked eye. Dubbed as the Planet Parade, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn can be seen shining in a clear sky before dawn. The conjunction was brightest this Friday morning, but will remain visible until Monday next week from most parts of the world. The last time the Planet Parade happened was in 2004, and it won't be seen again until 2040. It is also a special event because the planets appear in the order they are positioned from the Sun.
A Chicago Bulls jersey game issued to Michael Jordan during his rookie season and gloves worn by Muhammad Ali in his heavyweight bout against Oscar Bonavena are just among the 600 sports artifacts going under the hammer at a Beverly Hills auction. Eric Hirsch, sports specialist at Julian's Auction, said these memorabilia are all famous and special since they were worn at cemented sports events that rocked and made world history.
In these gloves, and it's really special. Fight-worn Ali gloves don't come to auction very often, and so it's really special. The estimate is $60,000 to $80,000. So here we have Diego Maradona, 1986 World Cup, an team-issued jersey, including an inscription and signature from Maradona himself. Each shoe is signed by the great Kobe Bryant. These were worn during the 1998-1999 NBA season, early in Bryant.
Members of an all-amputee football team in Iraq prepare for the Amputee Football World Cup to be held in Turkey in late 2022. The team has some 30 players, made up entirely of players who lost arms or legs in Iraq's many years of war and turmoil. After qualifying for the World Cup, they continue to train at the Al-Taab complex in Baghdad. For the members of the team, the sporting event is not just about the competition, but it is also an emotional healing process as casualties of the sectarian bloodletting that raged in Iraq after the 2003 U.S.-led invasion that toppled Saddam Hussein. According to Mohammed Al-Najjar, the founder of the team, he was studying in England when he discovered a Portsmouth amputee team and decided to replicate the experience. When he returned to Iraq, he posted an announcement on social networks and applications started pouring in. The team was formed in August 2021.
Alanis Morissette's Manila shows in November have been canceled. In a statement, Alanis was crestfallen to announce that the upcoming Jagged Little Pill anniversary tour dates have been canceled. She promised, though, to be back as soon as she could. Concert organizers said ticket holders will receive full refunds. Meanwhile, Grammy Award-winning artist Billie Eilish is coming to the Philippines. The lovely singer-songwriter announced the Manila leg of her Happier Than Ever World Tour, which is set on August 13. According to the event organizer, tickets will be available for pre-sale on June 24 and 25 for the fan club and Live Nation Philippines members. Sales to the Eilish concert will be open to the public on June 27.
The Glastonbury Festival returns for the first time since the pandemic. This year, it hosts musical artists such as Paul McCartney, Billie Eilish, and Kendrick Lamar. Our UK correspondent Keith Dimabuyu is here to tell us more.
More than 200,000 music fans and megastars Paul McCartney, Billie Eilish and Kendrick Lamar descended on the English countryside this last week as the Glastonbury Festival returned after a 3-year hiatus. The coronavirus pandemic forced organizers to cancel the last 2 years' events, and those going this year face an arduous journey, battling 3 days of major rail strikes across the country. Doors opened at Worthy Farm in Somerset, southwest England on Wednesday, and acts on the main stages began on Friday. Headliners on the main pyramid stage include former Beatle McCartney, the US singer Eilish, and rapper Kendrick Lamar. Other big-name performers on the bill are soul legend Diana Ross, Led Zeppelin frontman Robert Plant, New Zealand singer-songwriter Lorde, and electro-pop duo Pet Shop Boys. McCartney, who turned 80 last Saturday, will become the oldest headliner to play at the festival when he performs the coveted Saturday night slot. Other acts include Oasis star Noel Gallagher, US pop rockers Haim, and electro pioneer Herbie Hancock, and veteran Australian indie band Crowded House. From the United Kingdom, I am Keith Dimabuyu for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Now, let us take a look back at today's historical events. In 1571, Miguel Lopez de Legazpi proclaimed Manila the capital of the Spanish colonial administration in the Philippines. He also ordered the construction of the walled city of Intramuros. Manila thus became a replica of a European medieval city with palaces and city hall built in the Spanish Baroque style. In 1987, Lionel Andres Messi was born in Rosario, Argentina. At age 13, Messi and his family relocated to Barcelona and he began playing for FC Barcelona's under-14 team. He then grew up to be a world-renowned football player, having been named FIFA World Player of the Year 6 times. And in 2006, Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest premiered at Disneyland. Starring Johnny Depp, Keira Knightley, and Orlando Bloom, the film became only the third in history to cross the $1 billion mark at the global box office, behind Titanic and Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King.
And to cap off our week, here's a quote from social entrepreneur Bryant McGill to help you start your weekend. Your calm mind is the ultimate weapon against your challenges, so relax.
I like that. Relax.
That's us, you and I both. We're calm, we're relaxed.
And you know, you have to treat your mind like water. When it's turbulent, it's really hard to see. But when your mind is calm, everything becomes clear.
Clear, crystal clear, in fact.
Yeah, crystal clear. Okay, and that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. Have a great weekend, you guys. I am CJ Hero.
And I'm Nina Richie Alago Flores, wishing you a meaningful weekend. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.